So I've got the name.
Oh, yes.
I was going to go Beverly as a first name for a man, but I'm going to reserve that for another character some other time.
Beverly Hills.
I was thinking more from the Rivals, as it happens, but Captain Beverly, absolute. But I think I need to be more of a sort of Captain Absolute character. But I'd like to present to you Dr. Henry Carragmuir.
Wow.
Good luck, everyone.
Dr. Henry
Carragmuir.
Carragmuir.
Which means known of the sea.
Do we know each other? I can't remember how we left it.
Well, this is the first thing I was going to ask is, A, how do you all know Robert Thompson? And B, do any of you know each other? I
know him through the alumni network of Oster College. Oh, that's Odchester. You might know it as Odchester College.
Oster. Love it.
I was there on a choral scholarship, you may remember.
So you'll know me then?
So I might know you.
I definitely taught a bit of choir at...
What's the age difference between you guys?
I'm 72.
And I'm 48. So when I was there, I left 30 years ago. So you would have been, you're 72. You would have been 42. So yeah, you might have been teaching there. So I think I was put in touch with Robert Thompson via this alumni network because he was someone with who it was suggested that I might be able to offer some guidance to him in terms of studying the natural world. And we became almost like pen pals.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just exchanging letters on findings. I would tell him if I found a particularly interesting dormouse.
Oh, got a boring peregrine McCutcheon.
And he's a geologist, right?
Yes, he is, yeah.
So he'd tell me if he found an ammonite, a particularly large ammonite or anything like that. I think it was on that kind of exchange.
It makes sense as well because he was probably referred to you to maybe curb his more enthusiastic spirits. I mean, he was thought of as quite brilliant at school, those of you who know him will know. But since then, although he's still respected as a geologist, he travels a lot and he's very flighty. He sort of gets excited by one area then another and never sort of seems to stay in one place long enough to become a master of the knowledge that might be there.
Oh, well, I probably lived sort of vicariously through him to a certain extent.
Well, how about the rest of you? How do you know him? So, Lady Helen, you...
Well, I don't like to talk about it, but,
just between friends.
Robert was a very capable student and would often come round for crumpets on a Tuesday afternoon when he had free periods. This was when he was in the upper school. One of the leaving boys, and he was trying to get into Cambridge, and I was tutoring him on some of the entry exams. I've studied them myself, as I'm a great campaigner for women's access to higher education. Anyway, one thing led to another. I can only say that I gave him a full and thorough extracurricular education. And, yes, he reminded me always of a young Tomkin, that's my husband. Before he died taken from us too young and too far away in a country where they never learned how to speak English.
Which country would that be?
Oh, I don't know. Some far-off place. He did point it out on a map once, and I said...
Wales, it was called.
Awful shape it was. I didn't care for the shape of it at all. It looked very hot and dry, and it makes one wonder what the government is doing, trying to empire build in these sand pits when there's plenty to be done at home. Look at the state of Cornwall.
Quite so.
The roads are useless.
Love it.
Anyway, that's how I know Robert, but I keep that on the DL.
Of course. So, Dr. Henry Carragmuir, how do you know Robert?
I believe that we were, I think we studied together. because we are of an age. I'm 38, and I believe he's around that age. So I was born actually in Alnwick. I was born an Englishman, much to my shame. And then I lived the next 20 years of my life in a place called Freakham, just above Dundee, where the fish could be smoked and you'd smell it all day, if not indeed for 2 days long, and then you'd have a day off and then they'd start all over again. But Bob Thompson and I were pals, and then we lost our way a bit. I was short of a penny or two, and I took an engineering. I took an associative position to complete my doctorate, and I went out to the Sudan, and I served with the British Army, and his was a very different path to that. And I learned something about the world, but I was back in touch with him when I came back. I myself am not married, and I have a reputation with the ladies. And I can't remember what Bob's reputation with the ladies is now. Did he marry ever?
He didn't, no.
No.
He was a bit of, there were rumours, because he travelled so much. And I don't think he ever did anything to put down those rumours, although how true they were, who's to say?
Sounds about right. But he knows my deep love and fascination of the East Coast, and I will include the whole of the East Coast, not just Scotland. Obviously, it's much better up there, but I'll admit that there are patches along the way.
When we're not so far as Norfolk, God.
I'm quite interested in Norfolk.
Oh, really?
More so in Suffolk, actually. But,
that's one of the patches, is it?
yeah, but not the Wash. I mean, who the hell is interested in the Wash?
Yeah, well, certain kings. Anyway, I mean...
Do they ever hold it back? Yeah. How does that sound? Irritating?
Perfect. Yeah, utterly. No. Brilliant.
My job's done.
So, you will receive these postcards wherever you're staying. It looks almost as if it's been sort of soaked in water or hit by damp and then dried out. And, you can only imagine these northern towns, Dr. Henry excluded from this, being rainy pits of misery. But here is the message, which is pretty much an identical message you all received.
Should one of us read it?
Go for it.
I will read it as Peregrine McCutcheon.
Thank God.
What a relief. Had enough from Dan. Dearest friend, I hope you will forgive me the eon of time since we last spoke. I am terrible with these things, as you know. Fear not, as we shall soon have the pleasure of meeting face to face once again. Your expertise will also be a huge boon, as I believe I have uncovered something of immense import. Friend of mine, you will simply die when you hear and see, but no more for now. Is there any chance you can meet me in Robin Hood's Bay at your earliest convenience? In all truth, this is something you must see for yourself, and I need your expert eyes to ensure mine are not fooling me. Danger of exaggeration? Moi? That's very Robert. I am staying at the Boggle Hole Guest House. Await your speedy arrival. You will thank me, I promise. Robert Thompson.
The Boggle Hole Guest House sounds like an utterly awful place to stay. Have you ever been to Robin Hood's Bay?
Well, no, milady, but I could make inquiries, of course.
The Apocalypse Players present A Residence at the Bay, a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition scenario written by Danann McAleer in the style of M.R. James, with Joseph Chance as Dr. Henry Carrigmuir,
How do you know, Robert?
Well, of course, much to his irritation, I still call him Bob.
Dan Wheeler as Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon.
You'd get exciting cards back from Egypt or somewhere.
Well, I'd be more interested in the North African storks.
Dominic Allen as Lady Helen Marjorie Barmia Potts.
It's little Robbie Thompson.
Oh dear.
Prepare the horses.
Of course. Judas, I presume?
Judas and his chariot. His chariot.
And Danann McAleer as the keeper of arcane lore. Part 1. Fair winds and following seas.
The year's 1900. Having set out from, by train from the sun-drenched city of York early that same morning, the players have traversed the sort of brown-green fields and yellowing gorse of the North York moors. The skies have subsequently darkened, ruined dry stone walls, dilapidated huts, and tangled shepherd's tracks are glimpsed through the oppressive drizzle. Your destination is Whitby, the land of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was only published 3 years ago. So you may not have read it. Wasn't a hit instantly. But subsequently, you're headed for the Boggle Hole Guest House, around 1 mile south of Robin Hood's Bay. You're all en route because you've received a postcard from Robert Thompson, a Cambridge man, geologist and constant traveller. He's always been an enthusiastic student and a likeable colleague, if somewhat eccentric. He seems to have uncovered something extraordinary and wishes for your expertise in following up his most recent theories. His message seemed urgent enough to commit you to setting off straight away, regardless of your professional duties, and you find yourselves in the early morning light, paving stones shining, fish carts abound, queuing for the next carriage from Whitby train station to Robin Hood's Bay. And there you are. Those of you who know each other may well sort of bump into each other as you leave the station. Those who don't, obviously, not so much. But do you think Lady Helen and Reverend Peregrine, do you think you clock each other?
He might clock me. I'm probably oblivious.
Excellent. So you're sort of sat outside the station, an impatient look on your face. Is your horse with you?
Well, I'm not as young as I was, so nowadays I don't really ride for...
Pleasure.
No, I do ride for pleasure.
Oh.
I don't ride for practical reasons. I like to ride slowly, leisurely. So normally one would take an ostler with one, but...
All the ostlers were out of town, unfortunately.
Flew south for the winter.
I can't possibly look after a horse myself. I'm too old. So I shall have to leave Judas. I've left Judas back at Oster, but I will be saying to someone, listen, when I get to Robin Hood's Bay, is there someone I can hire a horse from? A good horse, not a fast one, not a wild one.
Well, there'll be someone up there. Outskirts of the town before you get down to the village is steep down there. But yeah, farmer.
An old and fat horse like me would be good.
Oh, there's plenty of those about. Don't you worry.
Don't smirk at me.
Sorry, madam.
Would I just excuse me? How would I have referred to you when I knew you as a student, Lady Helen? Would I have called you like Miss Potts, or would it have been Lady? How would I have referred to you?
Well, there's a rule, you see, because my formal name is Lady Helen. I know that if I've never met someone before, because they'll call me Helen, which is a strumpet's name, one I don't use. Now, if I've met them on a formal occasion, I will have introduced myself as Marjorie, and so you might call me Lady Marjorie. That would be very acceptable for students, so I would know that I know you, but in a formal capacity. informal confidants and intimates know me as Barmere.
Anyone who knows you really well reverts to calling you Helen, of course.
Yes, they pretend they've never met me.
I love the fact that your name gradually gets madder. Lady, Helen, Marjorie, Barmere, Potts!
Potts was my husband.
I'm glad you said Barmere because I was reading it as Pajamia, so...
Like pyjamas.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that reminder. Of course, I knew that. So I think I overhear this voice.
I think you do.
It's not the image; it's the voice. It's the voice. You know, the boys in the dorm used to always do impressions of Lady Marjorie. So this voice is seared in my memory, and you know, we were all quite fond of her. She was completely harmless.
In fact, you probably turn around half expecting to see Robert doing an impression of her. Is that sort of exaggerated?
Yeah.
I know that they all called me Marmalady.
Marmalady, and I do it.
Lady Marmalade.
And I do a double take, and I say, Lady Marjorie.
Oh, it's
Peregrine.
Peregrine. Yes,
Peregrine McCutcheon.
I remember. Yes.
Oh, I would forgive you if you didn't remember me. It was an awfully long time ago, but...
No, I may have aged terribly and become incredibly, as you see me now, but my mind is as sharp as ever.
You look just the same as you did 30 years ago. You might remember I was one of you...
How dare you?
More beautiful, more distinguished. You might remember me as one of your choral scholars, perhaps.
Oh, yes, no, I do remember, yes, very good. Do you well? You're here to see Robert as well, are you?
I am indeed. What a coincidence.
Well, are you dressed as a vicar?
Yes, but like, you know, country parson, so like it's not an extravagant...
Well, you've got a dog collar on.
Yeah.
Well, she takes you by the hand and says, I see you've taken to the faith. It's very good to see that you're not, like so many from your year, ended up working in the city or for the, whatever the company's called now. What is the company called now?
East India.
The East India Company. Is it still called the East India Company?
I'm not sure.
So
be honest, Lady Marjorie, I don't really keep up with that. Past 10 years or so, I've hardly left my parish, but this postcard from, if you received the same message I did, it was intriguing and...
Yes, did you get the same picture? Because the picture I got would really nearly put me off altogether. Look.
I know what you mean. And I look at her postcard and I decide against showing her my postcard because far more decrepit.
What a drab pit of despair.
Yes, it's quite well. It's rural there to say the least.
Ooh. I've seen rural. I've been to Sussex.
Is it fair to say that Dr. Henry, as you pass by, you hear, I think, for the sake of expediency, even more than storytelling, you perhaps hear, did you get that postcard from Robert? And you see these two people comparing, well, one of them sort of showing the picture and saying, you recognise it. Whether or not you engage with them is up to you, but I think it's fair to say you notice a coincidence there. It could well be that you recognise them from some social or some, gathering.
There was that fundraiser, wasn't there?
There was.
For the Odd Fellows.
For the elephants of...
oh, yes.
or Bangladesh, yeah.
Yes.
Sidney Wagner, I think, was leading that particular drive.
The Christian elephants of Bangladesh.
Yes.
No doubt. And I wonder if I might have seen old Jammy Fingers Potts, as we used to call her, across the room for the very first time, and maybe needed a couple of brandies to get over the fact. And then I may well have been introduced to the Reverend McCutcheon
I think, yeah, it's possible you sort of shook hands and were introduced briefly. It's probably unlikely you spent a huge amount of time together, but it might be one of those things where you just recognise a face.
Yeah, and maybe I knew that Robert knew him better than I did, and I don't think he's aware of any connection with Lady Helen. So I think as I'm walking down the platform, my head's thrown back. I've got quite a leonine head of hair, but it's very, very dark. I've got a full dark beard. And I'm carrying a dirty suitcase. Well, not even a suitcase, like an expanded dirty doctor's bag, leather.
You know, it's like special ops.
And I've got mud on my knees, and I'm wearing boots, and I'm quite tall, and I'll stride down like special ops, with a trowel in my pocket. No, not quite as ridiculous as that. But he forgoes a cane of any kind. But he always carries a hip flask, and I think he slows down as he passes them, and I think he fabricates a reason to light his pipe at that point, to stop and just listen.
In which case, I think maybe you'll catch the end of that conversation, which was last happening, where you sort of hear them saying, you know, "Oh, you got one from Robert as well. You're here to see the same person. This picture almost put me off," you know, all that stuff. And I think 2 and 2 make 5 in your head, which is correct for once. And whether or not you comment on that or introduce yourself is up to you. But either way, I'd say that Peregrine and Lady Helen are making their way out slowly towards the carriage stand.
I'm probably remonstrating with a young man who's been forced to carry my luggage. Be careful with that, it's a rifle. It's a Lee Enfield.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yes, I'm hoping to get some time to shoot while I'm out here.
Right, yeah, well, there's some up on the moors. Not much in for rabbits and hares and such, but there's...
I'm sorry, I can't understand a word you're saying.
All right,
just don't drop it, young man, and you'll get a shilling.
He zips his mouth and continues carrying your bags.
What a curious appendage you have on your lips.
Yeah, I'm one of those body modders.
I think Henry pauses a while. I said he in no way would take a cane, but of course he would take a sturdy umbrella. I think he does. He's tucked an umbrella under his arm, and
he's lighting his pipe. As he sort of lingers.
And he's listening to this exchange between Lady Helen and the bag boy. And is it far from where the bag's been dropped to the carriages?
It's just outside. It's you're almost at the end of the platform now, and you can see the latest carriage just leaving. There weren't that many people on the train. Most of them are dispersing off to the docks and into the town, so you assume they're locals. So you sort of assume the next carriage can be yours.
I'm hobbling along on 2 sticks.
Towards the carriage?
Yes, if this boy will get a move on.
He's still zipped closed.
Lady Marjorie, would you like to take my arm?
I have my sticks.
Of course.
She says, taking your arm.
I'd like to take out my field glasses and just scan. So we're in Whitby now, right? Have we got a view of the bay from here?
You're just leaving the train station. So on your right, you can see the Abbey.
Yeah.
You can see the cliffside, the church. In front of you, the town. You can't really see the sea, but to your lower down to your right, you can see a bridge and the sort of harbour.
I just use my field glasses to sort of scan the roof of the church. Often you get interesting birds nesting in the sort of spires of old churches.
It seems mainly to be herring gulls. There's a couple of black-headed gulls. You know, you think you might catch a whiff of a shag out towards the dock. But
Chance would be a fine thing.
I can tell you that Henry Carrickmere is counting on it.
but as you make your way through the archway, you sort of sporting your field glasses, and Lady Helen sort of next to you on your arm with her sticks, you realise there's no one else waiting for a carriage, so you sort of take a little seat where the drive is, and Dr. Henry walks out after you, puffing his pipe, and I don't know if you're talking.
I think I rap upon. I use the handle of my umbrella to rap upon the carriage, and I say, "My good man, excuse me within. Did you say that you were going to Boggart's Hall?"
Well, go Robin Hood's Bay.
Oh, I must have misheard.
Close enough.
Robin Hood's Bay will be just fine.
You couldn't get a carriage to Boggle Hall.
Right. It's like that, is it?
Well, there's just no roads.
I'm sure we can find our way from Robin Hood Bay. That would be excellent.
It's but a mile's walk.
I like that a theme of Danann's scenarios is that we always encounter a carriage man very early on.
A coachman or carriageman who leads us to our doom.
With a thick accent. thick local flavour.
Yeah,
right up at the front.
You got to start it off that way.
Yeah. Just like this crap novel I'm reading, Draculia. Not big head or two. It's all letters.
Oh, you're joking, are you? I know the bloke. He was up here 5 years ago. I had to ferry him between Robin Hood's Bay to Whitby to Robin Hood's Bay to Whitby again and again. Pretentious type he was.
Irish, I think.
Oh, you can say that again. Irish and Irish again. Honestly.
Excuse me, I understood that your job was a carriage driver running the route between Robin Hood's Bay and Whitby.
Aye, and I understood your job was a man of God. Can you tell him to clear up the weather a bit so we'll be less hard on the roads?
Oh, I'll have a word.
Only joking. Stick your stuff in the back.
I put my bags in the back, and I put Lady Marjorie's bags in for her, if she'll let me.
Yes. Get this young man unloaded. Be careful with that, Peregrine. It's Lee Enfield in there.
Oh God, here we go.
What golf clubs?
At the mention of a Lee Enfield, obviously your ears prick up a bit as well, Dr. Henry. But you're still sort of witnessing this sort of gradual ascent into the carriage. You know where you're headed, you've heard where they're headed, and you've heard enough probably to know, coincidences are coincidences, but...
Is there enough room on the in the carriage for one more, or would that be sort of squeezing?
Oh, yeah.
Too much?
No, there are, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They've put my steamer trunk on the roof.
I see this sinister character lurking, who's sort of been following us. And I say, excuse me, sir, are you headed in the same direction as us? Would you like to share our carriage?
I believe that I was going to suggest the same. That would be very kind. Here, I'll lend a hand to put the things on the roof for you.
Be careful with that steamer trunk. It's a Spilsbury. They're expensive.
All right, I've got it in hand. Don't worry.
As long as it's not full of hats, he says to himself. No one hears that.
It's the same kid from 10 years ago. He just graduated and moved up north. This fucking hell.
He says that no one hears that, but do any of us hear that?
You can always do a listen roll.
Okay, well, he mumbles it very, very quietly.
He mumbles something.
I'll do a listen roll. I love a listen roll.
Don't we all?
Oh, aha! I really do. Bang on, 20.
Yeah,
lovely.
I mean, I passed as well.
Well, in that case,
you do hear it.
You do both hear me say, as long as it's not full of hats.
Why would it be full of hats? I very rarely wear a hat.
I just raised an eyebrow.
Oh,
the Reverend's not spoken out loud for so long. He's sort of forgotten how to volume adjust. So.
Well, it's a long story. It's quite a sad story, really. Maybe we'll have time if we take a stroll one day.
Well, I think we're going to be sat in this carriage for a bit.
Are we? Well, excuse me. How long is the journey from here to Robin Hood's Bay?
Oh, it's a couple of hours.
Oh, my goodness me. I don't think I'll get much further in Draculia.
Well, you're welcome to walk.
I don't like a carriage journey. No, that's
How dare you?
fine. We'll make do. Yeah, what you were saying about watching the trunk as it was slung on top of the carriage, it just strangely brought back some memories of a similar trip I made about a decade ago with a couple of old Odchester boys. That's all. Nothing really.
Yeah. You lot on board yet?
I think we're all safely stowed.
Right.
Will you be making any stops?
No.
Well,
The,
you want to press on then, because 2 hours is really pushing it when it comes to me and my ablutions.
I see. Well, good to know. And he really whips the horses and looks suddenly quite nervous. And you pull away and you sort of...
Oh, my heart.
The carriage takes you across the bridge, and you see the coast out to your left. You see the sea. You see the twin sort of the pincered sort of lighthouses, causeways. On your left, you pass Church Street, the famous sort of cobblestone street. You think maybe you see the bottom of the 199 steps, but suddenly you're up and away, and you're going up. The horses are having a bit of struggle, but. You head up and you pass the abbey on your left, and you're up in the rolling moors. And whilst you're up there, the driver sort of shouts back, "You all right back there? Don't need me to stop on the verge or anything?"
I'm quite all right.
I was thinking more about her ladyship and her ablutions.
Lady Marjorie.
She looks fine to me.
All right, just checking. What are you off to Robin Hood's Bay for?
Well,
Spot of fishing?
Mind your own business.
Oh, all right. Just trying to be friendly, like.
We're visiting an old friend.
Oh, I see. Very old if he lives out here, I'd imagine.
How dare you?
Excuse me, sir. I didn't catch your name.
Dr. Carragmuir, Henry Carragmuir. I'm an Odchester man myself, as it happens. Here, and I take out the postcard and I hand it over to him.
Did you ever do any singing?
Oh, I was a baritone at my best and a bass.
Were you in the choir?
No, ma'am. I mean, your ladyship.
Oh, then that explains why I don't remember you.
I believe I saw you at that fundraiser for the Christian elephants of the Bengal crisis.
Bangladeshi wetlands.
That's it. That was the one, not Bengal.
Oh, possibly I go to so many fundraisers for all kinds of nonsense things that make no difference. All that really matters right now is suffrage and the elevation of the common man. That's what we should concern ourselves with, not what we're doing out in Calcutta or mooching around in the Middle East. We should be focusing on home first above all other things.
Couldn't agree.
I think, Peregrine, it's fair to say that at the mention of that fundraiser that you're well aware was organised by Sidney Wagner, you do have a slight sort of twinge back to the train on its way to King's Lynn and the discussions he had there about his thoughts on animal welfare, and
I remember them well.
yeah. It doesn't necessarily affect you. You've had a decade to sort of come to terms with what happened, but it's certainly a little reminder of the last time perhaps you were in a carriage full of older friends on your way to somewhere different.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Henry, did you say?
That's right.
Do you mind if I call you Henry?
Do you mind if I call you, what's your name?
Well, excuse me, Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon.
Then I think I'll stick to Doctor.
Of course.
Dr. Henry's fine. I'll stick to Reverend Peregrine if that's what you want me to do. What should I call you?
Well, as an old Odchester boy, you're welcome to call me Pip. They all did back then.
Well, I'm Hen.
I thought they called you Perry.
He sort of seethes and says, "No,
Perhaps not to your face.
The last two people to call me Perry.
do you know?
We know what
I
happened
can't
with it.
really. I can't really explain why that name bothers me so much. I couldn't explain 10 years ago, and I still can't explain now. But no, Pip. But anyway, I suppose it was always going to be evident with so few people heading up to the bay that you would be on the same expedition as us. Fascinated. Do you have any insight into what Robbie might have been looking into?
No, I haven't a clue. We were a little bit out of touch, I'll be honest with you, but a man like him, when he asks you to come, you come.
We've never actually met. We, I suppose, correspondence. We exchange letters very frequently about shared interests, but I've never met the man. I'd be curious to know what sort of impression he makes in person.
All right, well, I'll let him do that himself.
Of course.
As you're sort of catching up, could you all give me a spot hidden roll?
Oh, yes. Love to. A hard success for me.
Hard success for me.
And Dr. Henry?
I failed by 2, but I think I'll save the luck.
You're too engaged with sort of talking to Peregrine, really. Peregrine, you're sort of, maybe you find eye contact a bit intense, but either way you look out. And Lady Helen, you're sort of looking out the more sideway of the carriage as you sort of drift in and out of sleep. And you suddenly notice sort of 2 or 3 men stood in the field. And they seem to be sort of stood very stock still.
Oh.
Facing towards you.
Are they dressed? How are they dressed?
Well, they seem quite raggedy, and you notice as you sort of squint that none of them have 2 arms.
This scarecrows?
And in fact, one doesn't have a head. And you realise, yeah, they're scarecrows, but they're in rather a large amount of disrepair. For a moment it takes you back until you realise they're just these 3 sort of propped figures. Obviously, you know, maybe one had a squash for a head and it's been long since pecked away, but either way they strike quite an odd image in the field, especially in the sunlight.
How curious to put 3 scarecrows so close to one another.
And the driver sort of says, what's that?
If I've told him once, I've told him 1,000 times to mind his own business.
Nothing, driver. Drive on.
Alright, no worries. We're just coming up now. Be about 5 minutes.
Henry pulls out the shotgun and shoots the 3...
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No. Why would he do that?
Well, exactly.
I could take a crack shot at them.
As you sort of, I think the conversation tails off as you will have a moment of sort of slight, and then realise, oh no, what was I thinking? It was very silly. The next 5 minutes sort of pass in relative silence as you sort of enter the environs of Robin Hood's Bay, and you get to the top. There's a sort of what looks like a pub or a guest house there, and there's a little roundabout, the equivalent of, and the carriage driver sort of pulls around in a circle and drops you off. And he says, right, down there, main way. It's steep and all, but, you know, the horses can't get back up it, so I'll have to drop you off here. I'll help you get your luggage off. And he sort of hops out and starts getting the luggage off the carriage.
Very kind.
For them to know that a horse can't get back up, that means they must have taken a horse down that's still down there.
Oh, there's plenty of horses still down there. Don't you worry about that. Plenty of seahorses. Anyhow, here's your bags.
I think she's funny.
I say, oh, very kind, and I sort of take out my my little purse and I slowly sort of start to count out some coins, kind of hoping that someone else is going to pay. Because I'm an impoverished country parson. But if they don't, I slowly take out a few coins until I think I've got enough to pay the guy.
It would be unseemly for me to pay, even though I'm clearly the wealthiest person here.
No, allow me.
Oh, that's very kind, Dr. Henry.
Don't worry, I can put it on expenses for God's house. They're paying for me to be here.
I certainly can't put it on expenses, of course.
Well, ironically, considering my college is called God's house and your college is called God's house.
Right.
But yes, don't worry, I can take that. My dear man, could you give me a chit for this?
Aye, of course.
Everything has to be squared up. And by the way, there's a penny in it for you extra if you could tell me. Back there, those 3 scarecrows. That does seem odd. Is that the sort of thing that goes on here? I've always an interest in local traditions.
Well, you'd be better off asking locally. They're a superstitious crowd around here. I wouldn't tell you otherwise. But is that what you're into? You into ghost stories and things like that?
No, I'm interested in natural history.
Oh right. Well, I've heard there's plenty of that around here as well.
The connection between the two is often similar. I think you'll find that the myth of the dragon comes directly from, well, the myth of that which is hidden beneath the earth in its bones, turned to solid stone.
He tries to look interested, but you can't help but tell he's utterly bored. And he says, well, is that right? Well, there's plenty of natural history here as well. I've heard piles of natural history. Right. That's what you're here for.
Anyway, there was your penny extra. Thank you. Here, let me give you a hand with that last one.
When he sees the penny extra, he sort of says, here, if you need a lift back, just tell them at the new inn. They'll get in touch. I'm back and forth here anyway.
I think the Lady Helen will be delighted to see you back.
Well, I hope so. Simon.
Oh, Henry.
Simon Stevens. Nice to meet you.
I shake his hand. and as I turn, I say quite loudly, aye, it's the common man we must care for.
Aye.
Amen.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And he hops back on the carriage and says, right, well, enjoy your time. Hope you catch some cod. Ta-da! And Sean's off on his thing. And you're left sort of at the top of what's clearly a very steep descent through the town towards the coast.
Someone will have to help me with my sticks.
I take Lady Marjorie's arm again and take one of her sticks. And as I do so, I say to the others, I say to the two of them, I'm a curious man that he seems to say that he spends his life going back and forth between Robin Hood's Bay and Whitby, and yet he took such offence at that author for wanting to go back and forth between Robin Hood's Bay and Whitby. You would have thought he'd be glad for the business. Considering it's his standard route, I couldn't quite understand that.
But perhaps if Mr. Stoker had spent more time working out the structure of his novel than planning his Yorkshire jollies, then he'd have sold a few more copies than he has. I, for one, don't think I'll be able to reach the end.
Oh, well, it's not too much further.
As you're saying that, hit the carriage passes back round the roundabout. He's just been doing a loop before he sets back off again, getting the momentum up, and he hears that last remark, and he says, well, it's just not accurate, is it? I was here when the Demeter run aground. 'Tweren't a black dog that ran up them stairs, 'twas a squirrel. I saw it clear as day. And he, rides off into the distance.
I don't know what he's going on about. I always haven't got to that bit yet.
It's quite early on.
Don't remember it then.
I don't read much fiction myself.
I'm not a one for this gothic nonsense. This is about a giant leech who's a man who sucks up virgins' blood and eats babies. Not for me. I much prefer detective fiction.
Is it fair to say you're having this discussion as you make your way down the hill?
I certainly hope so. We'll be here all day.
I mean, we will be here all day. My movement rate is 3.
Oh, God.
initially you're just passing sort of the odd cottage. It's a very steep hill. It's like
Yeah, I know it. I know it well.
Oh yeah, so do I. It's sort of diagonal houses sticking out like teeth in a distended jaw, and the first thing you come to within the first 5 minutes is a little bookshop in a sort of very sort of narrow house on the left-hand side of the road as you make your way down. It's the first sort of public entrance or shop that you've seen since you've been there, and the door's open.
Wait a moment. Let us venture into this bookseller's. I just want to see if they've got a Sherlock Holmes or something of that ilk.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I'd love to pop in and see if they've got a field guide to the local bird life.
So you make your way in. The door's very narrow. It's almost like something from Harry Potter. It's like the house is so narrow and goes so far back. It's almost not a house; it's a corridor. But it's filled with books inside, and there's a thick scent of pipe smoke. And the one it's very dimly lit, although it's quite sunny outside. And you do see a sort of a man who sort of looks like a little shriveled walnut, sitting in the corner, smoking a pipe and sort of reading a tome.
Hello, my good man.
Hello.
We're from elsewhere.
I see.
We're looking for books. I would like a Sherlock Holmes or your latest detective fiction. If you can recommend something, I'd be most appreciative.
Oh, there's plenty around here. Oh, let me have a look. He sort of has a sort of shuffle about and he says, got some Holmes here. Yeah, that might do, yeah.
Which one is it?
Oh, it's the Curse of the Scarlet Witch.
Is it a new one? I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Written by, what's his name? Canon Doyley. But, we got some more here on smuggling and stuff like that.
I'm tempted to do a literature check on this book to see if it's a forgery.
yeah, go ahead.
That's a narrow success.
Yeah, it's a forgery. It's not a real Holmes book. It's certainly not Conan Doyle. It's you get the impression this guy might have written it himself. Like, got a friend with a printing press to put it up.
Are all your books knockoffs?
No. Oh, no. We got it's mainly history we deal in. There's lots on the local history. We got tales of the smugglers. We got tales of the lifeboats. All that stuff. It's up to you, naturalist.
I've no interest in lifeboats.
I see.
Give me a book on the smugglers, and I'll buy your knockoff Sherlock Holmes as well, in case it's any good.
Excellent. All right.
Something to read on the toilet, I suppose.
Penny and a half. And he bags up the knockoff Sherlock Holmes and the a random book on smuggling.
I open my little clasp purse, count out the coins. Takes ages.
I think Carrick Muir is standing at the entrance to the shop, leaning on a suitcase. Is there a manservant? Is there a manservant that Lady Helen's brought?
I don't think so.
No.
Unless I'm wrong. I mean...
So this massive...
I think maybe her relationship with Robert led her to come on her own. Maybe through a sense of... whatever that sense might be.
Yes. I felt it best not to involve the help.
Yes. Made her feel younger than perhaps she is.
Also, if I'm away and the Watts is with me, then who will look after the house?
Well, quite. So no, it's just the three of you.
I suppose I was checking because I was aware that there was this large steamer trunk. And have we just left that at the top of the hill then?
I imagine you've left it outside the bookshop.
But we brought it down here.
There's a sort of slight bit of flattened pavement just outside the door.
Why on earth would people choose to live here when it's so wretchedly inconvenient? It's like living in Muswell Hill.
Excuse me.
All right.
Do you have a book of a guide of local wildlife by any chance?
Yeah. Not sure how long it'll be, but yeah, we got something somewhere. And he sort of like flicks through and finds you a tome and sort of hands it over. That'll be a penny. You in town for a while then, or are you?
I'm not sure. Do we? How long do you think we will be staying here? You got any idea, Dr. Henry?
I've packed for a few days. He's got a little suitcase with him, as well as his dirty bag.
I have as well. Yes, just a few days, I suspect.
I see. Well, feel free to pop back in. I love to chat with educated folks, and
Too kind.
Not to be unkind to my fellow men around these parts, but there's not many that's interested in literature around here. So if you fancy a bit of conversation, feel free to pop up for a drink and a chat. And he sort of coughs over his pipe and leaves you to exit. Assuming you do.
Yeah, as we exit, I'd like to say I'm still got this weird feeling about Dr. Henry, that he's being sort of weirdly unfriendly, and normally I'd leave it, but I'm just slightly anxious about going to this place with crazy old lady Marjorie and then this grumpy doctor. So I just try it once more to try and see if I can break down his barriers. I say, Dr. Henry, did you say you're a naturalist as well?
Natural history, yeah, that's true.
Oh, it's a hobby for me, but that's your field, is it?
It is. I'm most interested in the bones in the deep. I suppose here it would be, well, the best we've found up here is the Platyplea curus. It's a form of ammonite.
Oh.
Of course, the bay itself has some fantastic liassic shale.
Yes, I it's obviously not my area of expertise, but Robbie has sent me all sorts of stories about fascinating fossils and all kinds of rocks and things he's discovered in this area. It's clearly the place to be if that's what you're into. I'm more I'm a country parson. I'm more concerned with the sort of thing you can find in a field or a hedgerow.
There's a poet, isn't there, who writes about that being like the spirit of God soaring within.
The bookshop was cluttered and crowded, and there seemed to be nooks and crannies. You picked up a couple of books, but you get the impression that, if needs be, there might be more that you can find in that place. Seems like a sort of a den of literary iniquity, the likes of which you have never seen.
And Lady Marjorie, as you exit, you do see your massive steamer trunk propped up against the wall of the bookshop. And I think for the first time you maybe take in just how steep the incline of the hill is going forwards.
My steamer trunk. Yes, we need to get that down. Is there anyone nearby? Is there anyone around?
Yes, there is. Yeah, in fact, as you're sort of scanning the road, you hear a sort of skipping sound, and you turn to see a young boy making his way down the hill towards you. Looks quite giddy, or not giddy, but sort of seems quite driven. He knows where he's going. And yeah, in fact, as he approaches, he does sort of take you in as a group, and he slows down slightly, like he's witnessing something somewhat out of the ordinary for him.
You boy, take this case down the hill, would you? I'm a senior citizen. There's a guinea in it for you. Not a guinea. There's a penny in it for you if you do it quick.
All right, yeah, I don't mind that at all. Yeah, help me get down there quicker. I'll see you at the bottom. And he sort of he like jumps on top of the steamer trunk, and sort of begins to. He sort of uses his momentum to he starts riding it down the road, down the middle of the street, using the metal rungs, the sort of the side bits as almost like sledge tracks. Yeah.
Be careful! It's full of valuable hunting equipment, you reckless child. Not that quick.
It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Shaking my fist in the air and impotently.
Great. So he sort of slides. He disappears round a bend in the street below, and you all follow on down at a much slower pace, it must be said, and you pass the last of the narrow streets with the houses built up on either side, and yeah.
But you've made your way down the hill, and as you get to the bottom, most of it's just these sort of vertical, quite thin houses. Seem to be just local houses. When it sort of opens out towards the bottom, you turn a corner, and there's a couple of pubs. There's a couple of fishmongers, sort of very open front fishmongers. You can tell the fish are literally dragged in and sort of cut up there in the street and put on well, either ice or whatever passes for it in this place. And the main building that looks out over the bay, as you sort of get a full view of the sea, is marked the New Inn, and it looks out over the sea there. What would you like to do? I mean, from the postcard, you know that your friend's staying in the Boggle Hole guest house. But unless you're locals, I doubt any of you really know quite where that is. You certainly haven't passed it. It's about midday now, maybe, having struggled down the hill with Lady Helen in tow.
Can we still see the boy with the steamer trunk?
Yeah, he's there waiting by the docks.
Ah, okay.
Sort of tapping his foot and sort of smoking a little spindle. He seems to have tried to roll up, but he doesn't seem quite confident with it. He's coughing. You see a fisherman sort of walk past him and give him a thick ear on the way past, and but there you are on the dockside, the New Inn to your left, and fishmongers to your right, and the sea in front of you.
And can I see the cliffs as well, or do you have to go further around?
No, you can. You can see the cliffs to your right. I mean, the tide's out, so it's sort of mud, slime, a mess of sort of chains and ropes, and sort of slightly akilter little fishing vessels. Sort of couple of fishermen dotted about, doing their lines. But other than that,
Doing lines?
they're on a heavy one. They're loving it.
I would like to gaze out to sea, and just look at the seabirds circling over the sea. Just have a moment, breathe in the sea air.
Fucking hell! I hope you don't fumble.
Were you going to make me roll something?
No, I'm not. You get an immense sense of calm from the place. Even the fishermen that are there, sort of tying their lines and stuff, they're not, being overly. It just seems like a picture postcard place.
Chilly, though, I imagine.
Chilly, for sure. There's not that many people out on the streets. The only place that seems to have much in the way of people bustling is a couple of people leaving and entering the New Inn. There you are.
You boy, with the steamer.
Aye?
Where's the Boggle? What's it called? The Boggle Hole Inn?
Boggle All Inn's over that hill.
Over another hill.
You wouldn't be dragging this with you?
Is it possible to hire a man to drive our items over?
I don't know. There's plenty of men you could probably hire for anything. I'm just a 9-year-old.
Well, there's a penny in it. There's a penny in it for you if you make our life less difficult.
9-year-old.
How about this for an idea? Might we go and take some refreshment in the New Inn there, and perhaps you boy could run along and find us someone who who could take us and our bags over the hill. I didn't quite...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, well-
I have another suggestion. Young boy,
right.
9-year-old
Yes.
boy, what? How rude is this Bogglehole Inn? Is it more salubrious or less desirable than the new inn?
She's asking if it's a clean sort of place or if it's quite rough and ready.
Is
Oh,
it better
wow.
or worse than the new inn here?
Don't know. I've not been in there.
Well, you wretched boy. Why don't you run along to the Bogglehole Inn and ask our associate, Mr.
That's all right, love. I'm not going down Bogglehole Inn. I'll ask Sally in there if she'll find a bloke for you. All right. And
Why aren't you going down the Bogglehole? You come back here, boy. I haven't finished speaking to you.
That's all right. He evades your grip and sort of runs into the new inn.
I go clattering after him on my 2 sticks like some giant spider.
And the whole scene goes into a sort of sepia brown slow motion, like an ITV montage from the Sherlock Holmes stories.
And Anthony Shares Richard III merges into Miriam Margolyes. As he...
Yeah, except it's more like the end of an episode of Blackadder the third.
No, that's a mashup.
So the kid runs into the bar, leaving your steamer trunk at the foot of the steps. Are you all following, I suppose?
McCutcheon's already doing something else. I think he's...
No, I was. I think that's not a bad idea. That's a good idea, Lady Marjorie. I think perhaps rather than us traipse over there, if this establishment looks like the sort of place where you'd be happy to lay your head for a couple of nights, then maybe we ask Robbie to come to us.
I think you're saying that as you sort of drift out of your sea-bound reverie, and you realise that Lady Helen's already halfway up the stairs chasing this boy, and you sort of go, oh, and you have to catch up slightly for the first time. But as you make your way in, unless any of you are staying outside.
Sorry. As you move away,
Please.
I say, "Oh, do it thing." Well, what does it actually say? And I, for the first time ever, it's loud, and I flourish my postcard again, and I get it out, and I start actually reading it aloud.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With particular emphasis on the fact that we're supposed to be meeting him there, which I feel is very specific.
Does indeed. You could do me a roll of some sort. What are you trying to glean from it?
He goes straight to, I'm staying at the Bogglehole Guest House. Await your speedy arrival, I say. And it's to McCutcheon. It's not to her. She's out of earshot, I'm sure. She might hear it.
I'm now sort of torn between, psychologically and physically between these two figures. One who's running into the inn and one who's standing there.
And what you know of Bob, he's flighty at the best of times, so asking other people to be speedy is not something he'd usually dare do. So you get the impression there was an urgency with which he wrote this.
Listen, Doctor, I'm with you. I understand. I feel that the postcard is clear, but it's going to be difficult for Lady Marjorie, and not to mention her trunk, to make it all the way over the hill to the Boggle House Inn.
I thought her name was Helen.
Oh, no, I suggest you don't call her Helen. I don't know how you came about that name. You must have seen it on her steamer trunk. She never uses that in public.
At which point in your conversation we cut back inside, and Marjorie, Lady Helen, you burst through the sort of the doors and into the sort of main area of the pub, which overlooks the bay, and you see the little kid sort of up by the bar talking to a sort of red-haired, quite burly-looking barmaid.
I walk right up behind him and clip him round the head.
Great, and he says, all right, missus, fucking hell.
I clip him again.
Ow! Jesus.
The first was for your impudence, and the second was for your foul language.
And the barmaid says, No, he's not bad, young Samuel. I know he can be a bit cheeky. Can I do out for you?
If he's the best of you, I would doubt it. But anyway,
What?
are you the proprietress?
Don't think you'd ever be called the best of us, but I am indeed. Yes, I'm the landlady.
Right. Well, good. I need to speak to you. I need to know, first of all, if your establishment is superior to the Boggle House Inn. Or guest house, or whatever it's called.
Ah, well, I wouldn't be a very good businesswoman if I said it weren't, but, aye, they're good folks up there.
This young man said he wouldn't go in there, but he has no compunctions or qualms with coming in here immediately and standing up at the bar.
What you're after him doing? Carrying your bags up there? He's but 9. I'll get one of the locals to do it. It's up a rough hill, you know.
Well, this is exactly my concern. Would it be better for me to stay here, to check in here, and then go up there?
Whether or not it would, it's out of the question. I'm afraid we're booked up.
Booked up?
Aye.
With whom?
Guests.
What guests?
We've a load down for the fishing. We have plenty of halibut down here around January, February time. It's the best time for them. They come down from the Norwegian, I don't know, I'm not a fisherwoman.
The Boggle House, they should call it the Mind Boggles.
Well, you can call it whatever you want. It's not my establishment. Jack! And you see a couple of old coves by the fireside across the way, and one of them gets up and he says, Aye? This woman wants her bags taken up to Boggle Guest House.
Woman, this lady...
Oh, of course, lady, I forgot. And he goes, all right, I can do that for you.
Jolly good, very fine.
Wanders over. He looks very sort of swarthy, sort of ruggedly handsome, late 20s, clearly handy, not handsy.
Young man, please, let go. What do you do for employment around here, young man?
She talking to me? I guess I do what anyone does round here for employment. I'm a fisherman. What do I look like? A pirate? A librarian? All right, you want this bag taken up there, do you?
Post haste.
He shoulders it. He's pretty brawly, and he marches out. Boggle Guest House.
Be careful with that one. It's got a Lee Enfield in it.
He pauses for a second and looks back at you like he's not sure if you're joking or not, and then sort of laughs regardless and carries on.
What's so funny about Lee Enfield?
The 9-year-old next to you says, I don't know, I'm just 9.
I clip him round the ear again.
Fucking hell!
Don't speak unless you're spoken to.
Cuts back out to Reverend Peregrine and Dr. Henry as you see this burly sort of fisherman type sort of march out with the bag over his shoulder and disappear in the side streets.
Like I'm clicking behind on my 2 sticks.
It appears the decision has been taken out of our hands.
It quite has. Unfortunately, the proprietress has filled the place with fishermen and seamen. So we'll have to go and stay at the Boggle House.
That's Sally for you, says the 9-year-old next to you.
Clip him again.
Clip his ear again.
Don't speak ill of your betters.
Do you know where you're going?
I think we follow the man carrying the bag.
We're following him.
He's sort of disappeared. He's disappeared already. Disappeared amongst the houses.
You boy, lead us to the Bog House, whatever it's called.
I already told you I wouldn't do that. It's up on there, on the hill.
What do you mean?
Walk that way, follow the cliff.
Why won't you?
It's ages away. I've got to go play marbles with Derek.
Marbles with Derek? Marbles with Derek can wait. You need to help a senior citizen.
Marbles with Derek is the best new Mike Lee play I've seen in years. He says, anyway, I'm off. Follow the cliff. Keep the seat to your left. You'll find it. He scamps
Don't
off.
patronise me, you scoundrel.
So it's south of the bay.
'Tis indeed.
So, my suggestion that we grab some refreshment in this inn. I believe it's more important we chase Lady Marjorie's trunk, which appears to be disappearing up those side streets.
Well, I think we probably have to. I don't know what kind of torpor we fell into while we were standing here on these steps in this rather dramatic conversation we were having, but clearly it lasted a very long time, and we should follow. This path down.
It's up to you. I think, Lady Marjorie, you got the impression that... you didn't get the impression this guy was a thief. I mean, for a start, she named him. as she called him over, and stuff like that. So I don't imagine you might be annoyed, but you're certainly not worried about your possessions just yet. So if you did want to grab some food to walk with or something like that, I mean, there's fishmongers about. There's the New Inn, which only one of you...
Let's get some fish and chips.
Well, quite.
Maybe we could get a mackerel bap on the way.
I feel sure they'll have something. I mean, Robert will have something, or they'll be able to call something up there. It's a guest house, after all.
That's true, it's still early.
It's only just midday.
Who's that man over there? Looks sort of Latin, and he's selling these sort of rolled tacos. Tamales?
Oh, don't worry about that. Zonkies are very popular up here.
A zonky bap.
Well, they've been trapped down here for so long, the horses, that they've bred with the zebras, the native zebras.
So, the Bogglehole Guest House.
The Bogglehole Guest House.
Presumably they have food and drink, don't they? Presumably.
Well, it's a guest house, right?
It's a guest house, yeah. It's not an inn.
They'd be able to call something in, and if they look, if they don't, I'll come back down here. I'm perfectly capable of doing the walk five times over.
Absolutely, one of us could do that. All right, let's follow the directions. Keep the sea on our left. Over that hill. Do you require any help, Lady Marjorie?
No, not at all, she says, slipping her hand over your arm. I'm putting all of her weight onto you.
As you make your way, you follow initially the path you saw Jack, the fisherman, take. And I mean, it's very labyrinthine, this place. It's very narrow, tiny little alleyways between vertical buildings, like 3-4 stories tall, but with not much width. But you follow down this alleyway and you take a couple of turns, you turn around at a cul-de-sac, and eventually you find your way. You see what's clearly a stile, and you go over the stile, and you're almost instantly surrounded in woodland. And you're heading downwards, muddy ground, sort of quite a lot of suction on the old boots, you know. And eventually you sort of hit the bottom of that valley and you start coming up again, and gradually the trees drop away and the sea opens out on your left, the moors open out on your right, and the sort of yellowing brown gorse is present once again, and you can see something up at the top of the hill. Looks like a building of sorts. You assume you're on the right path. If any of you are looking around at the moors, are any of you?
I think I'm almost certainly always looking for wildlife.
Yeah. So give me a little spot hidden, maybe.
Might be hares in this sort of
You never know.
moorland. I don't know. I genuinely don't fucking. That is a regular success in my spot hidden.
So you see a hare darting away from you, and sort of zigzagging out across the moor. And it passes a person standing in the field as it goes. Doesn't seem bothered by them. Quite a lopsided looking person. You realise pretty quickly. Again, must be one of these scarecrows. These old scarecrows you saw on your way into the town.
But just in the moor.
Just on the moor, which is odd because obviously what's being protected there. But it's a bit far away to see in any detail. But it looks very similar to the silhouettes you saw before, slightly closer. And as you make your way up the hill, you see this house rears into view, and it's almost like half a house. It's odd. It's too tall for its width, and it's the only house up there, alone on the bluff. It looks almost as if half of it's missing, as if, you know, for its height it should have a bit more of a ballast, as it were. It looks almost teetering. But then as you sort of come up onto level ground at the top of the hill, it's clearly a solid structure. There's a little walled off garden behind it, and out to the left as you approach, there's something, a little shape out between the front of the guest house and the cliff. You're not sure what it might be. It looks almost like a trig point, but obviously that's a bit close to the coast for a trig point, but it's something along those lines, maybe a marker of sorts. And you make your way to the front of the house.
And it looks somewhat more crooked and tall as it rears into view. And as you approach, the postcard's message rings in your mind again. At this time in Robert's voice, however it is you remember it to be, almost as if he's trying to convey something that you've forgotten.
Dearest friend, I hope you will forgive me the eon of time since we last spoke. I am terrible with these things, as you know. Fear not, as we shall soon have the pleasure of meeting face to face once again. Your expertise will also be a huge boon, as I believe I have uncovered something of immense import. Friend of mine, you will simply die when you hear and see, but no more for now. Is there any chance you can meet me in Robin Hood's Bay at your earliest convenience? In all truth, this is something that you must see for yourself, and I need your expert eyes to ensure mine are not fooling me. Danger of exaggeration? Moi? I'm staying at the Boggle Hole Guest House. I await your speedy arrival. You will thank me, I promise. Robert Thompson.
And as you walk on, the shape that might be a trig point draws your eyes again. And while you're looking over at it, I think more than one of you might feel a shiver down your spine, like someone has walked over your grave. You think of the hair that had just scampered through your legs, and then the scarecrow that you passed on the way up. It would probably now be obscured by the brow of the hill, but for some reason you don't fully understand. You don't want to look back towards it, just in case. And as you trudge on, the Boggle Hole Guest House looms up in front of you, and you prepare yourself to see your old friend.
Friend of mine, you will simply die.